Confessions, divulging desires, secrets, and sins, often meant to cleanse the soul. But sometimes sharing the truth can have far more sinister results. Ones that can get the confiding confessor caught or killed.
She believed quite a bit in confession and was very devout about church.
A young beauty queen goes to confession, then goes missing.
The time of her disappearance, perhaps the largest search for any kind of victim in the history of South Texas.
Her belongings are found, a shoe here, a purse there, then her body.
She was dead before she was put into that canal.
Did her confession get her killed? And when she looked into the eyes of her murderer, did she see the devil? This, the unholiest of mysteries, began over 5 decades ago.
I'm totally puzzled by something is coming up now.
After 50 years of prayers and police passion, whose confession got this frail 83-year-old man arrested for the woman's death? And where will the ultimate judgment come from? A court of law or his maker? Back in the day, 25-year-old Irene Garza was truly one in a million. Growing up in McAllen, Texas, the Mexican-American achieved for the times the unachievable.
She was sort of a heroine to many kids, including myself, someone who broke the barriers.
She went to college and became a school teacher, and she possessed enviable good looks. The beauty queen, a former Miss South Texas, had everything going for her and a bright future ahead of her.
She was likable and loving.
So the ghastly fate Irene met would shock and devastate her family and her community for a long time to come. It was the day before Easter, 1960. Irene told her family she was going to confession at Sacred Heart Catholic Church, then would be home right after. Hours ticked by with no word from Irene.
Irene Garza's parents waited until midnight, and when she didn't come home, they went to the church, found the car that she had been driving, and immediately reported it to police.
The next day, Irene's left shoe was found along the road. A day later, her purse was found in a field.
Once we saw the purse, we knew that something really serious had happened to her.
Then, 6 days after Irene went missing, a gruesome discovery. Her body found dumped in a canal.
I had not heard my aunt or my mother ever crying, and it's something I barely can even describe today. It was a very, very difficult time.
Reportedly, she was found with 2 black eyes, bad bruises on the right side of her face. She was missing her shoes and underwear, and her blouse was unbuttoned.
The cause of death was listed by the autopsy as asphyxiation, and there was some belief that she had been sexually assaulted.
The hunt was on to find the beauty queen's killer. More than 500 people were interviewed.
Irene Garza was said to have many, many suitors, and police began one by one to question those suitors as potential suspects.
None of them panned out, but one name in particular kept coming up.
John Fight.
Evidence and suggestions kept drawing them back to him.
When cops drained the canal, they found a slide projector near her body. It was later determined the projector belonged to John Fight. There was that name again, John Fight. To all in the small community, he was better known as Father John Fight, a visiting priest from San Antonio. The man police would soon learn had heard Irene's last confession. When cops talked to Fight, they noticed 2 things. Small details in his story kept changing, and the scratches on his hands.
He said that the night that Irene Garza disappeared, he went to where he was staying. He had locked himself out, and in trying to break into a window to get into his room, he scratched his hand.
Within days, Father John Fight became an even more attractive suspect when 20-year-old Maria America Guerra made her own confession. Guerra said Fight attacked her at another parish 3 weeks before Irene Garza was killed.
The woman told police that she was grabbed from behind by a man who was trying to put a rag over her face. And in the struggle, she bit down hard on the man's finger, drawing blood. Witnesses later indicated that he had a large wound on his finger.
Fight was indicted for assault with intent to rape Guerra. The case went to trial but ended in a hung jury. Then, before a second trial could begin, John Fight
pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of aggravated assault and paid a $500 fine for that crime.
No murder charges were ever filed against Father Fight in the death of Irene Garza. And with that, Fight went to another parish in Texas, spent some time at a Missouri monastery, and at a religious order in New Mexico, where he helped counsel child molesters. Then Fight left the church.
Ultimately, dropped out of the priesthood altogether.
He eventually married, became a father, and settled in Arizona. Decades went by, and it seemed the case had gone cold. But things were about to heat up when yet another confession would breathe new life into this old case. Coming up, 42 years after Irene Garza's murder, a break from the heavens.
He said that he had something to tell them about killing a young woman.
Did they have the right man, or was this a modern-day witch hunt?
This whole thing makes no sense.